Hello and welcome back to another video. So today I have another book review video for you, and these are all the books. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all of the books I have read since our last video, where I gave a review of From Blood and Ash. Now all these books are in order from my least favorite to my most favorite of the books I've read. And we will be going through them not too quickly. I'm just going to give you my review, a quick synopsis, and we'll go from there. So, my first book that I had read, actually, is Court of the Vampire Queen by Katie Roberts. So, 3 powerfully alluring vampire men and 1 queen to rule them all. All Mina ever wanted was to escape her father's control. Half human, half vampire, she lived eternally torn between 2 worlds, never fully experiencing the pleasures of either. Until her father chose her as the pawn in his latest political move, gifting her to the darkly powerful and dangerously seductive Malachi Zion. So, this book has so much potential, and I am one with the spice. I love a little bit of spice. But this book, probably about, you go probably 309 pages of just purely sex and orgasms. That is all this hunk is, which is fine. By the time that I got to what was supposed to be, I'm assuming, the climax of this book, I was almost spiced out. The three vampires in this, Malachi, Rylan, and we have I can't even remember his name. I cannot even remember his name. And he's one of my favorites. How awful. But pretty much every page is this girl who's half vampire, half human is what they want, what they think she is. She's actually mixed with a seraphim or angel. And the world that she lives in is so much fun. Wolf. His name is Wolf. He's yummy. He wears band shirts with the straps. Can't think of what they're called. But he wears he's a very attractive man. But this world has so much potential. And the characters themselves, it's very interesting to hear about elemental vampires who have powers of the mind, body, and soul, and blood. And just a very interesting world that I just feel like the orgasms kind of got in the way, you know? On the very first page, Mina has an orgasm from Malachi biting into her neck, which gives instant pleasure. And then she has threesomes with Malachi and his two friends, Wolf and Rylan. And then by the end of the book, all three of them get kidnapped by her father. She goes, saves them. They live happily ever after. I got to the end, obviously, but it was a struggle. It just was a very lackluster book for me. So, that is Court of Vampire Queen. And I know so many people will disagree with me, and that's fine. I need more context, I guess. So that is our first book. Next. If you are on TikTok, on Book Talk, you know the books, pretty much all of these books that I will be showing you. Now these ones are both by H.D. Carlton. And I love when books, these match. Even though this is bigger, they go together. It's so pretty. But H.D. Carlton wrote the Haunting Adeline, which is a cat and mouse duet. I love these books. I will say that I definitely loved the first book more. So, very quickly, we have Zaid and Adeline. Adeline is a book author, very well known. She has inherited a very gothic mansion known as Parsons Manor. And her grandmother, who she loves very much, had gifted it to her in her will. And the house is haunted. The house had burnt down when it was built, and many of the construction workers had died within. And Hattie's great-grandmother, great-grandmother, because it's Gigi's. No, Gigi is the great-grandmother. Her Nana is Sarah. Saphira. Something like that. But her great-grandmother had been murdered in the house, which is her grandmother, Seraphina's mother. Hattie's mother constantly is telling her to leave the house because her and her mom have a terrible relationship. And Hattie loves the house, loves the vibe. The house is a black gothic house. And I can actually show you. In the book, when it first begins, they refer to Zaid as the Shadow and Addie as the Manipulator. And she's called the Manipulator because she is an author and can manipulate words. So this is Parsons Manor. This is the sunroom over here. And it is beautiful. And so, interestingly enough, Zaid, we do not know his name for quite a long time. He first sees Adeline at a book writing, book signing, and immediately begins stalking her because he is just in love with her. And we find out that he is Z, the leader of a company that dismantles rings in the sex trade. And he goes and kills and retrieves all women who are victims to the sex trade. So, in our first book, he stalks Adeline, and she very slowly falls in love with him. And that is his thing from the beginning. He wants her to want him, and he knows some very unorthodox ways to get her to fall in love with him. This book says a lot about its readers, unfortunately. Very spicy. Do not recommend it for anyone under 18, personally. This is the first book I've ever read that comes with trigger warnings in the beginning. And it's beautiful when you open it. It also comes with a playlist. So, important note. None of these conspiracies derive from a belief in anti-Semitism or QAnon, but from my own demented imagination. Common conspiracies in the media and many occult horror movies my dad used to watch growing up. This book ends on a cliffhanger. The contents are very dark, with triggering situations, such as non-dub con between the main characters, graphic violence, human trafficking, stalking, child trafficking, child sacrifice, mentions of child death, and explicit sexual situations. There are also particular kinks such as gunplay, somnophilia, bondage, and degradation. This book was previously taken down due to the warning, but you can also find them in reviews and on my website, or feel free to message me directly. Your mental health matters. So, it's a very good book, despite its triggers. Adeline eventually will find out who Zaid is and find out the murderer of her great-grandmother Gigi. She finds her journals in a locked safe. And interestingly enough, around the time that she died, Gigi had a stalker as well, who she was very in love with and was going to leave her husband for. We do find out who killed her, and at the end of this book, Adeline, very unfortunately, gets taken into the sex trade after many find out who she is, especially to see. So, and her being taken is kind of related to his actions, but not specifically. Zaid is, I love him. He is like 6'5", one blue eye and one, it's one like almost white eye and one that looks almost black. And he is gorgeous. The audiobook, highly recommend. Very nice. So that is our first book. 10 out of 10. I plan on rereading it. I honestly feel like this would be a great Halloween and fall book to read, which I do plan to read it over again. Next, we have The Hunting of Adeline. So in this book, for the first part, there are 2 parts. Zaid is hunting Adeline and trying to get her out of the sex trade. Adeline has been taken by set up to be taken by the wife of a gentleman that Zaid had killed for trying to be with Addie. They'd all believed that she had been a victim to this man, but ultimately she was not. She was, but she became worse than he ever could be. So her name is Claire, and Claire she's going to be getting very big money for Adeline. Adeline is a very petite, brown-haired, brown-eyed, beautiful woman. And they're going to be selling her into the sex trade. When she first gets taken, they injure her very greatly, and she is taken by Rio and Ricky. Rio is a sex slave to the woman who is in charge of housing the women for the sex trade. She basically preps them and baits them to buyers before they are sold so she can get the highest price. Her name is Francesca, and Francesca basically tells Rio that if he does not have sex with her or do as she says, she will kill his sister, who has been taken into the sex trade as well. Zaid does everything he can to find her, and unfortunately, it takes a little over, or probably almost 3 months. It's a couple months that she's gone, and we find that her best friend Dea, which I know it's not good, but I had thought that maybe she had betrayed Addie at first, but because on the cliffhanger of the first book, it kind of makes you think that, but it is not. So Zaid saves her after many, many months of being raped and beaten, and Addie has to kill. She murders a girl who Francesca sees as a lost cause and of no monetary worth. So Addie is told to kill her, and she actually stabs her in the jugular and holds her as she dies. It's very sad. Addie is helped to leave by Rio, and they both escape, and Addie is running for her life. Zaid luckily has found where Francesca is located, and Francesca also has a disgusting brother named Rocco, and this book is very triggering. The first half, I will tell you, is very graphic. There's nothing that you do not know. It is not a bad book, but the first half, I will tell you, tried me a lot. For people who have those triggers, beware. It's very taxing. Mental health matters. Be very aware of that before reading this book. When we finally do get to the second part with Zaid, who finally finds her, and Addie had found this abandoned trailer, or like a trailer that was on the train tracks, something like that, and she jumps into the trailer, hiding from those who are now hunting her. And luckily, it is Zaid who kills 2 men and jumps into the trailer to find her. Part 2 is Addie getting her revenge. We kind of go through the motions of her regaining her strength and stability in her mind, which is still a very squatchy statement to say. But a lot of interesting things happen. just be aware of that. In part 2 of this book, her and Sade track down all who caused her harm, and also track down Rio's sister, who is in captivity, and they save them. We find out how great Sade really is. He has made a whole community with apartment buildings for all the women and children he has saved, so they have their own safe place away from any harm or danger. By the end of the book, we are a little bit before, we have a reintroduction of a little girl from our first book, Sybil. Sybil is a deranged, unhinged, psychotic child that Sade and Addie had met at Satan's Affair, which is a horror, like a horror festival. They have a bunch of rides and like haunted houses. And Sade and Sibby murder very nicely 3 men who were planning on kidnapping Adeline and her friend Dea at this event. And they are a part of this big sex trafficking ring of gentlemen known as a society. There are a lot of men in the government, and Sade is actively trying to dismantle it. By the end of this book, we go through a lot of changes in Adeline, a lot of changes in Sade as well, and their love story is something that I really enjoyed. I won't give you too many spoilers because I do believe that these stories, they do complement each other very well. It's kind of, we knew that she would end up in the sex trade because of Sade's work. It's a lot, but it's worth it. It's worth getting through all of that to get to the ending and watching as Adeline becomes this savage, she's an animal, and it's very nice to watch it unfold. So, The Haunting of Adeline, 10 out of 10. The Hunting of Adeline, only because I was sobbing for most of it and had to really collect myself multiple times. This one would probably be like a 7 out of 10. The part 2, 10 out of 10. But part 1 is very rough. So just be aware of that before reading these books. It's definitely something that needs to be said. And I care about you and your mental health. So that is that. Next. A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. This is my new favorite series. Hands down, I stand by it. I will argue with anyone. This is better than A Court of Thorns and Roses. This series has grasped me so tightly. The characters are amazing. Their chemistry, amazing. I love every single character in this book. And the people who are the villains, absolutely hate them. I wish the worst upon them. So, this is the second book in the From Blood and Ash series. And in this book, Poppy has figured out who Hawk is, which is the Dark One, or the Prince Castile Denier. He's a beautiful man. A lot of this book is her struggling to understand what she has been told her whole life, and understanding that it was all a lie. We are introduced to many different kinds of Atlanteans, the Woven and Changelings, and we start to learn more about who Poppy is and what her bloodline is. There's a lot of her and Castile really getting to know each other, and they do get married, and they fall in love, finally. So in the first book, there is a time where the blood trees, there was one that had grown in New Haven. So it might be in this book. But either way, the tree grows from where where Poppy's blood has been spilled. And it's an omen. We have plenty of omens from the gods in this book. So after Castile and her get to know each other, they finally fall in love. They do go across the towns, I guess, and they get to Pompeii, and they go into Espessa's End, where Atlantia has actually taken over many of the Ascended's cities. But the Ascended had burned down so many cities along that coastline to Atlantia, so the Atlanteans have taken it back. Castile brings Poppy there with Alistair, and he plans to marry her. We do find that Poppy is reaching the culling, which means she's over 18, and I think it's 19, but this is when Atlanteans get all of their powers. They mature and become stronger. And also being on Atlantean land, it strengthens them as well. So we find that Poppy can now heal. She glows a silvery moonlight. They say that she looks like she spuns moonlight. And no one reveals, well, everybody acts as if they don't know who she is or what she is. And many come to fear her. So Castile introduces Poppy to Alistair, who is the hand of the Queen and King. He is the father of Castile's ex-lover, who was Shia. And we find that Shia had betrayed Castile and his brother. She had been the woven bonded to his brother, Malik, and when Castile was in confinement by the Ascended, being used for his blood, Shia and Malik had come to save him. And Shia had actually given up Malik so that she would survive, and then tried to give up Castile so she would survive. So she betrayed him not once, but twice. Castile would kill her, rightfully so. After her death, he did not tell Alistair of why. It was just believed that she had died in the act of trying to save Castile. So Alistair he would come off as if he did not want Castile to use Poppy as a trading tool to kind of bargain with the Ascended to get his brother back. But it becomes so much more than that. I'm on the third book. Oof. Girl. Anyway. So they meet all of the Wolven. We meet Jasper. We learn about the joining, which is when a Wolven and a mortal and an Atlantean can put their blood together, and it would extend the mortal's life. We also meet Kieran's sister. Kieran is the Wolven that's bonded to Castile. And then we get to the marriage. The marriage of Castile and Poppy is ordained by Jasper, who is the kind of head Wolven. And he, I believe, is the father of Kieran. I believe. So after Poppy and Castile get married, the day turns into night, which is a sign from the gods that it is blessed. It is a sign from the god Nyktos. He is the god of death, and he is giving them their blessing. And at this time, all deities are asleep in different places in Atlantia. So, after being married, a spiral is planted on the palm, and in Atlantia they put the ring on the center finger and the palm. So the palm has a circular golden print, and if one of the betrothed dies, then the spiral will remove from the one who is living. And we just really see how much love is between Castile and Poppy, and it is beautiful. We then witness the Ascended coming to Espesizent to retrieve Poppy. The Duchess Tierman comes with them and tells them that they will be killing all of them unless Poppy come with her. Poppy refuses, and she stays on the rise with Castile to fight the Ascended and their royal guards, and she refuses to go with the Duchess. War breaks loose, and they are killing left and right. Poppy starts at the top with a bow and then makes her way down. She then will make her way to be next to Castile while they fight side by side, and many die. It comes to the point where many more Ascended are coming, and they don't have enough people to fight them. And before the war had broke out, Castile had sent Kieran, his one Wolven, and Delano, I believe, to go get more troops, to get more Wolven. And he was not even sure if they would be back in time to really be helpful. So it comes to Castile and Poppy covered in blood, and Castile covered in arrows. And Castile cannot die from those because he's an Atlantean. Just so we're on the same page. And they pretty much accept to one another that they're going to die, and that they are okay with dying as long as it is with each other. At this time, Wolven emerge, and Castile claims that Poppy she's glowing, silvery glow, and all the Wolven emerge. And it's suspected throughout this book that Poppy has control over the Wolven, and in her distress, they come. So the Wolven come in droves, while the Duchess Tierman, the Ascended, waits patiently in her carriage for the war to be done. She doesn't fight. So Poppy goes over to where the Duchess is, bursts through the door of the carriage, and murders Duchess Tierman. And the Duchess says something very interesting to Poppy, which is that she is the granddaughter of the Queen of Solace. And that would mean that the Queen, who is an Ascended, had birthed her, or had birthed her mother. And the Queen is laughing at her, saying that her marriage to Castile was the best thing Poppy could ever do, because she is reclaiming Atlantia. Poppy kills her, stabs her, and watches her wilt. And her and Castile proceed to get extremely inappropriate in the carriage. So, after the war, they are going to make their way to Atlantia, where they will meet Castile's parents, the king and queen. They're going to one town, I forget the name of it, but they want to introduce her to the king and queen, where she can be crowned and ordained, and Castile plans on becoming the king of Atlantia. Because he believes that his brother is actually dead, and he sees that he will never give Poppy to the Ascended, which was his original plan, but changed after falling in love with her. They arrive. Well, I'm trying to skip over something, so there's some enjoyment to the book, but they go over the Skotos Hills, I believe, where there is the fog, and in her dreams, Poppy is about to sleepwalk off a cliff, and the female goddess that sleeps underneath the mountains stops her and tells her that all will be revealed when she reaches the capital. And she awakes, and they all go to the capital, her, Castile, and Kieran, and other Wolven. Upon reaching the capital, Castile has to go do something, and one of the Wolven, Beckett, which he ends up being murdered, but anyway, he takes Poppy to look at her room, but it ends up being that Beckett takes her to the temple, where a group of the dissenters, who are originally the supporters of Castile, but apparently not, are attempting to stone Poppy. This brings out a rage in her, and she dispels these strings of silvery light that ultimately is a power where she takes all of their anger and uses it against them, and they all die. All the Wolven are called as well, and a blood tree emerges from the ground where she is, and the ground begins to rumble as if the gods have been awakened. At this time, Castile's mother, who is the queen, and her king walk into it's like a templed area, and see her. The Wolven all come to her call and are around, snarling and there to protect their highness. That's who she is to them now. Because, lo and behold, Poppy is the daughter of a deity. They are assuming she is a daughter of the lineage to King Malik, who is a deity. And Castile's mother comes in and she says, "Hawk, my dear, what did you bring home?" Which is just But that is where this book leaves. And the third book, which I have begun, which is A Crown of Gilded Bones, goes off really quickly. I'm on chapter 4, and it's already very, very intense. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I know it was more rambling than anything, but those are the 4 books that I have read. This is definitely my favorite out of all of these books. I just love these characters. I really do. So that is today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it and found it relaxing. If you have any book recommendations for me, leave them in the comments below. If I offended you by any of my thoughts of these books, I do apologize. That is not my intention. So, thank you so much,